It is now going live, Ji.
எங்க போய் பார்க்கணும்னா வீடியோஸ்ல பார்க்கணுமா லைவ்ல பார்க்கணும் ஹோம்ல பார்க்கணுமா
Live, can you just click on the link that I have shared?
Yeah, I clicked on it.
Adala, in that, now it will be, now only it is going live. It was signing up all this time. That's what I was saying. It was delaying. I don't know why Zoom is taking so much time to log in into YouTube and share the things live. Now it is live. I can see it, and so should you also. Can you see it? Yeah, now it is live, and participants can also see it live. I'm sharing it as a link also to you in case someone is asking from your side. Just a moment. Yeah, we are live, Ji. So, Vanakkam, Mandanam, Namaste. Good evening, everyone. Wishing you all a happy Sunday evening today. Thanks for joining us. And today, I'm really proud and it's my pleasure and honor to have Mr. Chandra Mouli, CIO, CTO from Sankara Nethralaya with me here. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chandra Mouli, sir.
Yeah, Bhushan.
Yeah.
Can you
Before
just
we
give me a minute? I think a couple of people are asking where the link is. I'll just
sure.
take them through the link. Okay, I think it's just coming around.
Nice.
Give us a minute. I think just in case few people want to join.
Sure. So it is 6:04 now. So around 6:06. Let us.
Yeah,
start.
just a couple of minutes
Sure.
before we start. Actually.
Done.
Sure. So it is 6:04 now.
Yes, Mouli sir. I guess we can start. Yeah.
Start. Yeah.
Vanakkam, Mandanam again, everyone. Wishing you all a happy Sunday evening, and thanks a lot for joining us, Mouli sir. And a quick introduction about Mouli sir, I would like to share. It's actually my pleasure to do that. And Mouli sir has been literally the man in technology who has seen it all. So by seeing it all, what I mean, he started from mainframes, and then he has seen the age of liberalization, then DMAT, Y2K, .com, offshoring, global sourcing, and demonetization, and now currently where we all are in a lockdown. So that was a pretty interesting journey, but that didn't stop there. Mr. Mouli sir, being in the technology field and being into strategizing and transformation field, had to learn and unlearn incredibly a lot. So what do I mean by that? From COBOL, he had to start, and now he is into AI-based diagnostics. And sir has started at 160 KB floppy disks, working with the floppy disk tapes, to now it is all cloud. Multi-cloud data, hyper data centers is what we are working now on. So, what is it that keeps you motivating, Chandramouli sir? Because this is a field that is very taxing. This is a field that puts a lot of pressure on you. What is it that keeps you motivating?
Good question. particularly being in healthcare, I think the biggest opportunity is to see that the technology touches lives of people actually.
Uh-huh.
So whether you will know your result the same day. Probably you don't even need to wait and take a feedback from a user. Actually, you will get a direct feedback from the end user. Invariably, it is the doctor or a patient or somebody who has been benefited by the technology or otherwise, actually. So there is always a pressure to deliver, and the joy is primarily seeing a positive feedback. And mostly that had been a driver when you work on something as critical as healthcare, and particularly whether it's a technology which is impacting lives, particularly in a operation theater or on the
Mm-hmm.
field or anywhere, wherever you wanted to stay connected. I think there is always a problem to solve,
Mm-hmm.
and there is always a solution to give. And
True.
the incredible amount of the jugaad that we do almost every day keeps you really motivated to really do something different almost daily. I think it's a kind of question of continuous innovation daily.
Uh-huh. Interesting, Ji. And to Jugad is say like the spirit of Indian leaders that is always there here. So I see Sankara Nethralaya is a pioneer in technology adoption, Ji. So can you please tell us a bit about what went into it? What are the challenges that you faced, or what was the transformation that was being adopted? Can you please walk us through the journey?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, um, but ironically, we were discussing today, although being a Sunday, about our forthcoming celebration of our 15th year of our technology the next few months, actually.
Wow.
So it's nearly around 15 years ago, Sankara Nethralaya started his journey towards a full-fledged, what we call it as a electronic medical record. And we
Uh-huh.
had been reinventing ourselves almost every second year or the third year.
Uh-huh.
So it's an incredible journey, and we have a great vision as well in
Uh-huh.
terms of what we wanted to see down the line and things like that. So what started as a small way around 15 years ago is probably now we are touching around 1,500 users, close to around 200 terabyte of data being backed up almost every day, completely multi-cloud and so on and so forth. I think the amount of change that we have done in the last 4 or 5 years has been incredible, actually.
Okay.
And we have been benefited by a phenomenal amount of energy by the team, and also by the end users who had kind of put us, had been put to kind of tolerated our mistakes because it's not so
Okay.
easy to deliver something as critical as a electronic medical record because you have to be
Mm-hmm.
learning and unlearning a lot of stuff and expectations are high. So it's been an incredible journey. I think the biggest challenge I say had been to work with something which is so talented doctors, who had no time because they are already on the field, speaking to a patient. End of the
Mm-hmm.
day, they have to sit together, sit with us, and provide us the relevant input for us to deliver it on time.
Mm-hmm.
Technology-wise, I think completely, we are on a Microsoft stack as latest as we could probably think.
Okay.
It had been re-engineered at least around 3 times so far, although it is around 15 years. We have built a lot of bells and whistles around the core stack. We
Uh-huh.
have been, I think today's discussion will also be around some of those innovations that we have brought in the last couple of years.
Nice, Ji. Interesting. And sir, you had literally been into, say, like almost all the big industries that is driving our nation's economy, starting from finance to now into healthcare. You had also been a user, a technology user, then a global technology leader, and now you're presiding over one of the most prestigious and what do you say, well-known eye hospital in the nation. So
Correct.
here, so do you see any differences or do you see any similarity between the technology being adopted on these sides? Ji? In healthcare and whatever you have journeyed through the experience.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the one thing I wanted to because largely I had been around 25 years plus in the financial services industry.
Uh-huh.
And when I joined Sankara Nethralaya around 6 years ago, one thing was I came with, as usual, with some baggage of I know these things, so I can do something different and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But what struck me immediately is, whatever I knew may not be completely relevant. So I had to
Okay.
learn. But the good thing is the unlearning happened very quickly. And we are working with some of the most brilliant doctors on earth, and
Uh-huh.
particularly Dr. Badrinath, who is considered to be the father of Indian medicine or father of Indian ophthalmology,
Wow.
has been my direct, he is to whom we have indirectly reporting to.
Uh-huh.
And he has very high ambitions on technology, and he had been kind of visionary about driving a lot of changes and things like that. The first thing that we tried to do was to put together broadly a vision statement which he wanted to do and take it
Uh-huh.
beyond. And that was far different to what we might have done in the erstwhile life. Here, now we are not only talking about technology being applied for day-to-day work, but also for the future.
Okay.
So basically, you're going to deal with science and technology and well-being, and
Uh-huh.
also delivering solutions for day-to-day life. So
Day-to-day
you are
life.
living both in the past, present, and the future, actually, together.
Okay.
Actually, it's completely a different dimension altogether compared to working in a typical organization where you have been really being given a task, or you can probably predict what can be coming around and taking it beyond. Here, we really don't know what is going to come around. For example, the good example itself is COVID, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thought
Mm-hmm.
there will be a pandemic, but you still
Mm.
need to be ready with a solution when something happens as dramatic as a pandemic.
Okay. So coming to the pandemic situation here, Mauli sir. So you definitely would have a vision or something would have been working in the back end, right? So you would have a roadmap of how this entire process has to be or how the technology has to be adopted, etc. So what is in for the stakeholders? What is in for the organization as such? What is in for say like the different researchers, doctors, etc. Can you please
Right.
walk us through what you did as a in the roadmap for Sankara Nethralaya?
Yeah, like I told you, I think it's nearly a decade and a half of technology adoption, and
Uh-huh.
more or less around 98% of what we want to do had already been achieved over the
Okay.
last 15 years. And when we knew for sure that almost all business processes have been taken care, digitization has been more or less complete, excepting for a few things. Nearly around 32 lakh patient records is what we already have, right from the first day of our existence to date. More than 32 lakh patient records are completely digitized, automated. An end-to-end system of around close to around 20 plus modules already work together. So we realized that the next generation of systems have to come with making data more actionable or the
Uh-huh.
information more actionable. But having said that as a large dream, that was quite a large dream when we really put that journey together. Then we have to bring in a stakeholder view.
Okay.
The stakeholders were pretty diverse. So we had stakeholders who are in research, who was in as an hospital. The touch points had always been the patient, and as somebody who's driving an operation, I think the cost is an issue, so operational efficiency is a core. And looking at futuristically, like what I said, how do I look into something like more advanced, something out with some sensors and whatnot, and also making the whatever things that we have learned through in the whole process of our 42 years of existence as some kind of a knowledge management system, where an enterprise solution has been used as a knowledge management system. So the
Okay.
stakeholders view had been brought together. So that's
Uh-huh.
where we thought about making information actionable was a dream, uh,
Okay.
but we need to take it down to a user level or to a kind of a segment level where they really understand what this means. So patient engagement from a hospital is one of the key things. In fact, we are going to talk about a couple of things, how it has changed during the course of today, and also looking at the next big things, like connecting science, technology, and well-being, like about how do I make something more disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
down the line. Actually, that was really a kind of a learning for us when we started our AI journey around 5 6
Okay.
years ago. And
Oh,
healthcare being a very very process intensive and also cost intensive business, a lot of operational analytics driving decisions actually. So we were one of the first to adopt a cloud-based analytics around 4 years ago.
okay.
And also using our electronic medical record as our employee engagement modules or an employee enablement, where the doctors and our optometrists use this for writing research papers, writing next generation of articles that may be required so that they can make some informed decisions about the way forward for their own career, for their building up, the data-led research and so on and so forth. I think that had been the way we looked at the roadmap itself. And there is a technology plan for almost everything.
Hmm.
So multiple streams, multiple angles. Some of it could be little time tested. Many things are little advanced. Something could be more
Okay.
futuristic. So actually, like what I said to you, we always try to live in all three areas, with you live both in the past, present, and the future all the time.
Present and future. Understood, Jay. Understood. And this is, in fact, to all our dear entrepreneurs, industrialists, and business owners listening. So, if you just caught Mauli sir's words, so they started the process before 15 years before, 10 years before, 5 years before. Past was there, present is being worked upon, future is also there. So it was not that we are waiting for the pandemic, things were going on. So that is called a vision, that is called wisdom. So coming back to you, Mauli sir. So you had mentioned that you are using and adopting AI also at Sankara Nethralaya. So I mean,
Correct.
at what stage is it? So can Indians benefit now directly, or say like even the global citizens as such? So how can patients benefit through that?
See, our journey of AI itself is a little was more by accident to some extent, and to some extent also by design.
Uh-huh.
First of our AI initiatives was more or less like working together with IIT Chennai, IIT Madras to do some kind of a decision support
Okay.
kind of a system. So it started around 2 years ago. Some false starts were there, but I think it landed up into some papers and things like that. But at that time, I think to a large extent, even the uh, computer vision systems was at a bit of an infancy stage. So it
Mm-hmm.
was evolutionary at the time. Now we started this as early as around 2010 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty early, as far as AI was not even thought about. I think it was some automation to at best, things like that. But it was very evolutionary at the time. So we were struggling around 2 3 years. Then suddenly we had a nice conversation with Google. We were coming out with something new, and we had struck a partnership with Google.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more than around 2.5 years of research work that our doctors and in collaboration with a couple of hospitals in India, besides Sankara Nethralaya, Arvind Hospital was also involved,
Mm.
and the engineers from Google were involved to develop one of the most advanced API, which is already patented and
Oh,
FDA
okay.
certified. Which I think most of you might have seen the video of Google Sundar Pichai talking
Uh-huh.
about these things. But our mission was very clear, was to prevent blindness on one important area called as diabetic retinopathy.
Okay.
The reason why diabetic retinopathy was primarily India being the diabetic capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And retinopathy is something like a pandemic today, like what you see, it's asymptomatic. You never know that you have an issue. And the problem was because of a lack of a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
No, you never know that you're such a situation like adaptive retinopathy being a part of your system. And if it really progresses, then the chance of somebody losing a vision is much higher. So,
Okay.
and the most
Okay.
unfortunate thing about India is we just have around less than 4,000 doctors
Oh my
who
God.
can do any kind of screening for diabetic retinopathy, and those hospitals are also far and few,
Yeah.
and we don't necessarily travel all over. And we had around 6 crore people to be screened based upon our study done somewhere around 2009, 2010. So I'll quickly play you what was the kind of change and what are the transformation that you're talking around. I think this could be a minute plus of a video.
Sure.
Many people might have seen it, but still good to hear Sundar Pichai talking about the kind of advancements that this could be.
Mouli sir, can you please play the audio too? Can you do the, just a moment.
Is the audio there?
I'm not able to hear the audio. So you
Okay.
can share it via more audio.
One second.
Yeah.
Can you?
Hello.
Can you? 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you hear now? Can you hear now?
No, Ji. Can you try increasing the volume if possible? Or else
Okay,
let
1
me
second.
quickly pull up the video from my side also, so I can display it. Just a moment.
Is it on the stop video where you'll have a video setting there?
Yeah. Just a moment, Ji. Just a moment.
1 second. I think it's there. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Is it there?
Not yet, Ji. Not yet. Just a moment. Just a moment. Let me try it from my side too. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. I'm sharing it from my side. After playing this video, let's stop. I will share. Just a moment. Yeah. And sir, just let me know if you can hear the playing. Oh. And sir, just let me know if you can hear the.
Last year at Google I/O, we announced Google AI.
Super.
It's a collection of our teams and efforts.
Can you preview it, please? Yeah.
Sorry, you played it or did it play from my side?
I can play it, but I don't know where the issue is. I think.
Sure. No worries. No worries. I'm playing it again. Just give me a moment.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Last year at Google I/O, we announced Google AI.
It's not on the preview mode.
Or I guess, sir, can you please play it? I guess it was from your side. We could hear the voice.
Okay. Can you just I'll take my. The screen sharing stopped actually.
It's a collection of our teams and efforts to bring the benefits of AI to everyone. And we want
Hello.
this to work globally, so we are opening AI centers around the world.
Hello.
AI is going to impact many, many fields. And I want to give you a couple of examples today. Healthcare is one of the most important fields AI is going to transform. Last year, we announced our work on diabetic retinopathy, which is a leading cause of blindness, and we use deep learning to help doctors diagnose it earlier. And we've been running.
Yeah.
Hello, Mouli sir.
Yeah, please. You need to allow the share to me. It's not sharing.
Hello.
Yeah. I can hear you.
I'm not able to hear you. Just a moment. I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. Now I can hear you. Extremely sorry for that. Just give me a moment. Sir, I guess we can skip the video now. I will give the control back to you.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm stopping screen share now. Please go ahead, sir. Unfortunate for this. Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah.
So I'll skip the video, or how do you want me to do?
Sure, you can skip the video. Ji. We can try playing one last time. If not, we will skip the video.
Okay, cool. Okay, so basically what this means was now the AI will be in a position to diagnose the medical retinopathy based upon an image. And what this means is
you can share the screen, sir. Hello. You can share the screen.
Can see it now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So basically, you take an image based upon a very specific camera called as a fundus camera, and the medical diagnostic imaging are based out of AI systems automatically. In fact, as we really speak, these things are already part of our system. And where the patient walks in, actually, the AI diagnostics is also done. The doctors also do the diagnostic, and they compare results, and you are probably done. But the biggest opportunity is to democratize screening now. Because right now, earlier, unless you go to a hospital, take this kind of imaging and does it, you are never not going to do it now. But right now, the future of what we are trying to do is these things could probably be done by some kind of a remote center, where many of these things could be done, and our AI systems can really bring in value. Assuming you are in some remote place, say something like Vellore or somewhere around where the biggest opportunity will be to take diabetic retinopathy to a remote center, and you will get your results immediately, spontaneously. I think that's where we are working around. And this could be very, very transformative. And these kind of systems are our biggest challenge, not only in India, but even across the world. Even if you are in a Western country, I think the issues are the same, actually, because of the lack of availability of doctors who can do a proper diagnosis and provide you instant results. I think we are probably going to be in a verge of an era which is going to democratize screening. And maybe another 3 years down the line, what you're going to really see is the mobile really taking over some of these areas where you can probably use your special purpose mobiles. Not may not be something which could be an ordinary mobile, because the high-end cameras can really do something different, and you will be on a cloud, and you get your instantaneous report on this kind of diagnostics. I think this is what we are working on, actually. So these two are already done. Probably this is work in progress, maybe another 2 years down the line. Although we are now done with one area, which is called diabetic retinopathy. We are already working on glaucoma. We are already working on retina. probably another 2-3 years, something like what we worked on diabetic retinopathy, we may have possible solution for more futuristically, maybe for 2 or 3 more eye diseases, which can be predicted using a computer vision, actually.
Okay.
I think that's where we are heading into. I think this will be far more transformative than what we can think around.
Interesting, Ji. Interesting, Mauli sir. And say like this will be revolutionary because, as you mentioned rightly, with regards to the 4,000 doctors alone, and we are thinking in terms of crores and crores of patients. So something
Correct.
like this has to be brought in here. And sir, again going back to the pandemic situation, you had mentioned about the vision, you had been working on it, but when the pandemic struck, how
Mm.
how did you respond to it? Was it easy, or did you do anything different there? How did you make the change, or did it change anything at all at your side
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Sankara Nethralaya?
yeah. I think what is important is to understand the core of the pandemic itself. I think if you picked up a broad theme, I think the people don't want you to be in the hospital. So we learned for the first time, that social distancing or you have to be away from mainstream is going to be one of the first in things.
Uh-huh.
So translating that into actionable technologies, anything and everything, digitization, automation, virtual,
Uh-huh.
online, autonomous, self-aware, digital assistants, where you're literally going to talk to a machine or something on the web, things like that.
Uh-huh.
I think since you're already digitized and fairly automated, I think it's pretty obvious that we can implement a bit of a social distancing in our work in some way or the other, which was leading to a lot more automation. In terms of pure hygiene, probably people have been talking about hand wash, so many other things, frequent washing your, not touching your nose and this and that and things like that. I think what this meant was primarily it was contactless, image recognition, voice, robots, things like that. So basically you need again a host of technologies which can really help you to do the same work without manual intervention.
Yeah.
These were broad themes that what we quickly realized. And fortunately, we were a core robust system which we could really leverage upon.
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer from a technology standpoint was probably what we call as the rise of a digital twin. So whatever
Okay.
we used to do physically,
Uh-huh.
as somebody working in a hospital, you need to do it virtually. I
Okay.
think that's what the digital twin is about. So I think that's fundamentally a game changer for many brick and mortar companies, which has not been used to all working through a digital model.
Okay.
So you look at on two extremes is one is everything going hyper digital.
Mm-hmm.
So anything and everything, but we may not be there from a healthcare perspective, but some of it could be hyper local. And it's a
Okay.
hyper local because of all your lockdown and so many other things. You have to do things necessarily in a remote place, but you still wanted to get collected.
Mm-hmm.
So that led to the rise of some newer business models and things like that. So I think so all these things led to some newer thought process about how do you want to engage, how do you want to improve your processes and things like that. And common areas from a technology standpoint, cloud, analytics, to some extent autonomous in the case of healthcare,
Okay.
a bit of an algorithmic as well, convergence of voice and imaging. I think these are things that you have to necessarily deal with as you really go around. I think this gives you an idea about what went into our minds when we started decoding the pandemic itself. So basically, now that you have a pattern to deal with, so then the choice of the right technology for the right problem became a lot more simple, easier, straight, where you don't need to really think about doing too many things. So from a
Okay.
healthcare scenario, what is happening is there is a lot of change from a patient expectations.
Uh-huh.
One thing is for sure that we have been used to a huge amount of crowd, close around 2,000 to 3,000 people a day. So how do I service them? And remotely, I think expectations have to be met.
Okay.
What kind of service enhancement that need to be done? I think that's again to be seen. How do I deal with newer services, for example? And what this led to was a lot of collaborative innovation. Definitely, because simple for two reasons is you have to do it in pandemic time. When you talk about pandemic time, it is something we're wanting to be done in days, not in weeks, actually.
True.
So almost everything was required yesterday. And what kind of organizations that you need to support this kind of stuff. So, so basically we need to rethink about what all we knew. It was completely an unlearning by many ways. For example, an idea of a zero UI, for example.
Uh-huh.
We have not done such kind of radical thinking before that. We've been traditionally been running a lot of traditional ideas. Now talking about blend of emotions and insights. I think when we started delivering something as radical as telemedicine, now you need to capture patient responses back and even pick up voice responses, things like that. I think those are something that we learned very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey was more an outcome. It's not necessarily about what kind of technology or products that you have. So the long story short, I think the most dramatic overnight change that we brought in was telemedicine. Okay, when I talked about telemedicine, I think there are various form factors. Our immediate problem was to really advise our patients who had visited Sankara Nethralaya and where we are not in a position to do it because of a lockdown. And the problem was Sankara Nethralaya announced lockdown much earlier of the government itself, at least a couple of days ahead of the government. Because we knew exactly this is not going to be something easy for us to solve very quickly. And within 2-3 days, our medical directors clearly said that we will be doing telemedicine. And to be very honest, we never had a solution on hand to match the need actually. So, but we had already anticipated it and we were already started working on it remotely. All our teams were tasked to work on it completely remotely. We do a quick data search, close to around 7,000 people not to be followed up for post-surgery appointments. And the biggest issue was our doctors are going to work remotely and wherever they are. And we need to provide them data on things that we are pretty familiar with. It could be a mobile or probably on their laptops. And unfortunately, medical data is something that never existed outside of the networks of a physical hospital. So enabling EMR, enabling caption, getting back an action plan, managing the appointments, these are big challenges. So going back to what I said is how do I make these things autonomous? So we develop systems which could be calling the patient directly, using a cloud telephony, making appointments and matching it out to the doctors who they met earlier. So those things were pretty done dynamically. And we were in a position to respond to around 6,930 patients out of 7,000 patients we were supposed to call and or transact 2 months period. And that comes from 1st of April to mid of June. So we were more or less on target. We met all those expectations of those patients. We provided them counseling around what they were supposed to do during the pandemic, post-surgery, stuff like that. I think that was really rapid. And the whole application itself, which was a complex maze of around 4 different cloud solutions talking to each other with a complete end-to-end automation and almost around 500 to 600 patients being called upon a day on a peak. Was quite a task completely managing remotely. I think the beauty is none of the 100 doctors met in person. We all trained them virtually. And the entire solution was completely put together remotely working. Around six people plus worked remotely. We never met each other during this COVID times actually. Everything was completely done remotely and This is one of the most runaway hits, I would definitely say, which was adopted in less than few hours of our
Wow.
launch. I think this was a really pandemic response from us. And the good thing is we presented this as a case study with the All India Ophthalmic Society. And close to around 7,000 doctors were on call who will listen to the success story of Sankara Nethralaya. And the AWS, which is the apex body of the ophthalmic doctors, mandated a telemedicine committee. And promptly, we were also part of the committee to come out with suggestions on what we should be doing for the industry, for the society itself. I think that was one of the biggest success stories I can probably think as far as a pandemic response is concerned. But we knew for sure that was not the case. So we
Okay.
had to do something much more dramatic and very transformational.
Uh-huh.
So we had a very strong partnership with Titan for the
Wow.
last 10 years plus, Titan Eye stores across the country.
Uh-huh.
Because of the lockdown and so many other things that people are unable to come. So
Mm-hmm.
how do I enable a full telemedicine solution, which requires some kind of a proper checkup of the eyes before they can really do something where we can really counsel the patient properly. So we just launched the telemedicine solution along with Titan, where
Wow,
the
interesting.
patient can really visit the nearest Titan store
Uh-huh.
and get their eyes checked up. And most importantly, this is what the store is looking like right now. Okay.
Okay.
And we have a complete automation at the background. These were things which are augmented.
Uh-huh.
Right now, we are getting into some more mobile devices and things like that. And then once the basic consultation is done, then the doctors really go through the EMR. Everything is completely into an EMR right now, electronic medical record.
Okay.
And the doctor really diagnose it and provide them prescriptions or whatever else that is required. So we just
Mm-hmm.
started our first of the consultations from Bangalore. The
Wow.
target is to have around 10 stores working in the next few, maybe in the next 1 month or so. And
Uh-huh.
the outcome of that could really roll out into one of the largest possible telemedicine network we can probably think about in the
Wow,
ophthalmic
wow.
area. So this could be a complete game changer for two reasons. Is one is we are leveraging two organizations' mutual strength. Number one.
True.
Number two is this could be a completely different business model itself,
Uh-huh.
which had not been thought through. But if I go back to the first slides, I think that's where we really said this could be some newer business models and hyper local
True, 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 true.
and the rise of a digital trend. I think these are things that we may be probably thinking through. And one of the things that we also have in mind right now, not still there, is
Uh-huh.
probably to put a diabetic retinopathy screening also part of this network.
Okay.
I think basically that will completely transform even access for a remote patient for a complete proper diabetic retinopathy check. I think that could still be work in progress, but I
Progress.
think
Okay.
that will be very, very transformative.
Interesting. Really interesting, Mouli
Because
sir.
this is
And
where the technology and conventional brick and mortar businesses working together to provide real
true,
transformation. But
true, 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 true. And it was really a wow factor to see that, say, you could roll out telemedicine in such a quick time and make so much impact. So coming back to telemedicine, so what are the other possibilities we can think of, Ji? How can probably we can make different ways or create ways for doctors and healthcare professionals to engage in?
see, fundamentally, and again, this is something which is very, I wouldn't say it's evolutionary. I think COVID has really fast tracked some of these things.
Uh-huh.
Even for a small problem, I think we had been used to visiting a hospital. So we typically call this critical care.
Okay.
But invariably, why hospitals are crowded is because you really lack the distinction between critical patients and not so critical requirements. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that is getting distinguished thanks to COVID right now. So people, in fact, hospitals don't want you to come to a hospital today. So they want you to
True.
be at home, get treated, and so on and so forth. I think that kind of notion is already coming around. But for that to happen, I think the The most important thing, transformation that needs to happen is to bring in the digital devices into the picture. I think the so-called mHealth, telehealth, all this health tech or all something which would be very, very transformative, which can really bring in the chronic care and the wellness together, where we can really diagnose a lot more things better, and we can really invert the paradigm, where the doctor can deal with these things on an exception basis rather than by you need to go call a doctor, visit things like that. Assuming, I know the vitals, I know the basics of through the health checkup that the data devices are going to stream back to the doctor through the cloud. Then the autonomous systems can really make decisions and alert the doctor, and the doctor should be in a position to call. I think these things are really going to happen as we really speak, and in certain areas I think it's already happening, but particularly in COVID care, but not necessarily in an ophthalmic care right now. But I think certain areas, it could really completely be a game changer. I think telemedicine could largely be something called a health bridge, where it's just going to bridge the providers and the payers and the patients together.
Interesting, Mouli sir. And so that is really like a onslaught of technology. So we can see
Absolutely,
that Industry 4.0 is already here in health tech and the pandemic response.
Right.
So
I think
Mouli,
you are bang on, actually. I think with all this, let me.
Sure. Can you play it?
Can you just check? Can you getting it?
No, Ji. Can you play?
No? Okay, well, let me see.
Can you play the video?
Yeah, 1 second.
No, Ji. Couldn't hear here.
Getting it?
No. The video is playing, but we can't hear anything.
Okay. 1 second.
Sure. Or if you want, let me know. I can also play the video.
I think if we can, the last time it was on a preview mode. Can you just switch on and play from your side?
Sure.
I'll just switch off my screen share.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Need a professional website? I created one for our startup using Wix.
Just a moment.
Let me show you how I did it. First, go to wix.com.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough.
You can hear, right, Mouli sir?
I can hear, but the video, there is a lot of advertisements in between.
How about now? I started playing the video.
Okay, I can.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
Superb one, Mouli sir. So back to you. I'll stop my screen. You can share it again. Really nice video. And in fact, that is what has given a crux of this 4.0 transformation onslaught. Can you also unmute yourself, Mouli sir? Superb. So Mouli sir, a quick question on this part. So how are you planning to steer ahead? How are you planning to go ahead in this 4.0 industry 4.0 onslaught? Do you have any innovations planned under your kitty, or what are your thoughts on that?
Quite a lot, actually, to be very honest, quite a lot. Actually, around 3 years ago, we started our journey on, in a formal way, I would definitely say, by putting up a Center for Innovation, and it was named after one of our donors, our largest donor and our director, Dr. D.R. Barwale, who is presently no more. So we thought it is in the good interest of what he has done to dedicate the Center for Innovation in his name. So that culminated in a lot of newer stuff, and he had been one of the pioneers in innovation by himself. So obviously looking at what the future is emerging at that point of time, we used to call it as Industry 4.0, and looking at what we want to do in the healthcare. So we put together some ideas around what we should be doing around, and which today, particularly with the post-pandemic, I think it's increasingly becoming more relevant and more kind of fast track what we are trying to do right now. So the patient being at the center of the entire ecosystem that we are trying to talk about. So we are not talking about any more of hospital, but creating an ecosystem in the first place. So obviously everything is getting digital and everything is also becoming newer business models, like what you talked about, a Titan kind of a story and things like that. And so the whole idea for innovation is going to be a lot more incremental rather than going to be a big bang, actually. So from that perspective, already we have a lot of things in our plate, generally broad-based from a technology standpoint, but most importantly, we clearly knew that we can't do everything by ourselves. I think it's for sure. So obviously, we were trying to build partnerships with innovators, startups, or technology giants. So for example, Tata Consultancy Services had been one of our biggest backers of technology in terms of the entire EMR had been built jointly, collaboratively along with them, and where we take it to the market as together and driving newer technologies. And we have also been, in fact, we even incubated a couple of, I wouldn't say we incubated, I think we brought a lot of ideas in terms of what we should do next for small startups to come out with plans, things like that, based upon the problems that we do. I think those things had been a part of our journey in terms of what we want to do next. Things like, for example, SD-WAN.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Something that we started with on a small way. I think we built our own product now. On our own teams have even built our own products around it. And there will be a lot of tools and technology which we have built around it. Each one of these areas, what we listed out as next generation areas, but I think there is aligned with the vision of making information actionable, gets into some stream or the other, actually. So I think that's what happened. I think I'm going to show you a couple of things that where we partnered with somebody which is about to go live right now. This is not live yet, but I think we just built up an AI bot, which is completely a code set, which is zero code, actually. So technically a bot, a patient engagement bot. Again, thanks to this pandemic scenario, I think we had been tying up with the idea of a bot for quite some time, but which we didn't do. So we zeroed in on a company who was in a position to give us a zero code based bot where we just expose our core business solutions as API, and we can really work to put together a complete patient engagement journey using a bot right from our website, or it could be from a mobile device and things like that, where it can get integrated to a payment system. And it could be kind of semi-autonomous in terms that it can recognize who the person is, do some validations, bring a doctor live, things like that. I think this is what we have thought through. 3 different business processes are likely to go live in the next 1 or 2 weeks. It's ready for prime time use. We are about to launch it hopefully next week or internally. But this is one such example where a partnership with an innovator can really make a difference. They are not into healthcare, but we really saw some great idea how we can really take it into the market, actually. So this is one such example. This is another interesting disruptive idea where we ourselves built it with a small time on a solution, which is basically a voice-based solution, which has been completely disruptive. I'll play the voice first.
Sure.
I'm not sure whether you're going to hear it. I think because this voice streaming is a problem, but
no, voice is not audible, unfortunately. It's okay. So actually, the consultant is dictating it, right?
correct. The consultant is speaking to the EMR actually on a browser. So See, we had been tying up with the idea of a voice for nearly 7, 8 years, probably.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't really have a breakthrough on it, and not until we launched up on a Google API, which is fit for
Okay.
purpose in terms of what it can. But again, we had a lot of challenges. The
Uh-huh.
challenge was, it can do the translate from a voice to text, but the problem is I need to take it to my application. So we had
Okay.
to write a whole wrapper around a voice API and bring in the user experience. And no, it really doesn't matter whether it is an electronic medical record or it could be uh, a general purpose editor where you can write your notes and or use it for your meetings and things like that. So it's now part of our mainstream. So what this meant was that the entire earlier somebody needs to call a transcriptionist, run a
True.
transcription procedure. It take a couple of days to probably even weeks before the letter goes down. But here the doctor can really dictate directly to the case record, and it's all done. So what used to take a days, it can now be done in minutes.
Minutes. Got it, Ji.
It's
Got it.
completely
Super.
empowering the user. Actually, I think that's what the result is.
Definitely, Mouli sir, definitely. And so, how do you spot such innovations, Ji? How do you spot such, say, there's a problem because everything looks like you have already been working it for the last 5 years, last 3 years, etc. So,
Correct.
how do you spot those? How do you manage innovation?
See, the real challenge in all this, like what is told is, we are always on the lookout for problems. To put it very bluntly, I think we have a laundry list of problems to be dealt with. From
Uh-huh.
a requirement standpoint, I think there's always a requirement backlog.
Okay.
Almost you talk to anyone, they already have a need in some way or the other. It could be just a pure process automation, or it could be completely disruptive, like a mobile or a voice or image-based or so on and so forth. I think the list is always big.
Okay.
But what I try to do is to understand, what would be the most relevant technology that could be done, and whether I can create a business impact and make a huge difference. I think that's what I do from Center for Innovation perspective.
Super.
And bring
Nice.
in some kind of outsider thinking about what can be done to bring in change, actually. So the good thing is, I am a little away from the problem in the sense that I'm not a doctor. So I can bring a lot of external view to a whole problem which somebody has solved it in other industries, and create that kind of little innovation in terms of applied technologies. I think that's what it matters to me, because how do I solve it more intelligently is the key question. So what the pandemic has done is completely changed through the thought process of development, where it had brought on from days and weeks to now to pandemic time.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes.
talking about probably a couple of days where something needs to be launched, one. And from
So in
agile
fact,
to
that is what I wanted to ask you, Mouli sir. So say like you're in a position where you manage now a highly productive team, a highly trained team, and say like what has changed in the IT development cycle, or say in this
completely.
special scenario, how do they deliver? Because we have a very good community of professionals who are listening to us in the audience. So what can they observe? What are your words of wisdom for them?
Actually, the more than the pandemic itself, the pandemic is a recent outcome of many changes, but I think more than the pandemic itself, the change itself has been the way cloud has brought in a transformation.
True.
So we see a lot of cognitive tools. So even before the pandemic that we did, I think they've been started doing big bang approaches to incremental changes. So the cloud got us the kind of flexibility that we wanted it in the first place. Cognitive tools, API, real-time integration had all been much faster and much more quicker than what we can think if we start adopting a lot more agile technologies where we need to think outside rather than inside, actually, because we have always been constrained that these are the people I have, these are the tools that I have, this is what I can do. For all that matter, you don't need many of those things. If you wanted to start looking into things like, say, open source, for example, or how do I bring in things like zero UI as an idea, for example.
Wow.
Can I bring in an integration through an email or something like a bot where there is no concept of a UI? For example, where is the UI in, say, a WhatsApp or a bot? There is nothing that exists. It's all text and chat and some embedded links and videos and images and things like that. So the outcome is what matters, not necessarily the form factor. So that uses the competitive edge in terms of producing some quick results. Then of course, you always have an issue, then you fine tune it. So it's a completely a journey. So there is nothing like a signed document which exists in the healthcare world. So even if you go ask a user, can you define my problem? I don't think he has any clue of the problem. He only wants, this is my result that I want. So he is not in a position to tell me the problem that he wants to solve actually. So we'll have to find the way to deal with that actually. So, but from somebody who had been on the other side of the table, particularly working as a provider before, I think it's always kind of mixed when you say, okay, it's a little messy, it's a little chaotic. How do I deliver something which is very undefined kind of stuff? So what this means is, you need a point of view in this sense. It could be right, it could be wrong, but it really doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. The only thing is what it matters is the outcome. So, and outcomes are bound to be not 100% right on day one, but it could be closer to the reality. But so long as you can really make it work right within the shortest possible time, I think you have a chance to be there. I think that's a shift from a waterfall or a conventional life cycle development to something more agile to now to extreme. I think this is a quantum shift in thought process and working, but also how we use the tools.
Super.
I think that's important for us to understand. And all these things, the end result is what it matters. That's where we talk about more real-time integration, because problem is our patients don't wait, because you have a patient who wants to be serviced. So how do I service the patient is what matters rather than anything else. Or how do I service the doctor, then going through many processes. But it's not that we are going to dilute any of these conventional wisdom of developing softwares, tools, and products, but I think those things will be met. It's something like being a Formula One driver to somebody who's a novice who are just learning a car. I think that's the analogy you can pick from. Life cycle is more about driving a car, but I think you're working in an extremely agile environment, say like a hospital is being as you are a Formula One driver, where you know the destination and the outcome rather than do it actually.
Well put, Mouli sir. Well put. And so this is where we really understand that not only are we living on the edge, so living on the edge, the true meaning, this is where we are getting it.
Right.
It is almost like not only are we, but the technology in itself is on the edge. So
Correct.
understood, and really well put, Mouli sir. So coming back to all of this, right? So all this scenario. So do you think can you take it forward to industries as a whole? And if suppose that can be taken, how can they adapt to it? What are your thoughts on that?
No, that shouldn't be a problem. Actually, the problem is the industry wants more. I think the adoption is very, very well understood. The fact is more than 120 hospitals across India adopted our technology. Close to around 11,000 users use it daily. We do around 20,000 plus appointments pre-COVID times. It's a proof of testament that this is a technology which works. And I don't think there is a dearth of acceptance. Actually, we are now looking beyond. Actually, how do I take it to every individual doctor? Or how do I take it to potentially every citizen of this country on his mobile? I think these are things that we are trying to work around. And there are certain very advanced ideas of putting together a national, some kind of a digital blueprint, which could be completely transformative, where we can take the eye care services to the homes of the individuals. I think those are things that we are working around. Maybe, I think probably in the next 4 to 6 months, we can see a lot of changes coming around from our stable, actually. But I think those are more transformative, which is completely radical, where you can literally do many things that what you have been conventionally used to do, like buying your medicine, taking your basic checkups, having your follow-ups, and at least around 50-60% of your routine things can be done using from where you are remotely. I think those are things that we want to do, where we can enable doctors to do it. And with some of the AI initiatives that you're talking around, some of those things are quite becoming quite a possibility in the near future.
And definitely, Mauli sir. And say like what is now encouraging me is, so in the future, when you mention as future, so what do you see there in the future, and what is real or what is happening? Because this is the question I always wanted to put to you, and in fact all the technology leaders out there, I say like, what is the future that you see and what is in fact real? Because people out there, they feel all of this is just science fiction. So according to you, what is it? What do you see the future?
I think we already had this notion of this industry 4.0. I may like you to take the control and play back a video
Just a moment.
there, actually. So I think that will be really transformative for people to understand how the future of a hospital is going to look like, how the future of
Mouli sir. So how much of this is real according to you? Uh,
Good question. The question is, we are there nearly.
oh, okay, okay.
Okay, the question is, we are nearly there. Actually,
Uh-huh,
this is what is important for you to understand. Now,
uh-huh.
at least in, um, so people always used to wonder whether I can do many things with my phone. Actually, you probably can do it now, as we really talk about. Um, See, today what happened is most of the time when you are with a doctor, then your first thing is that you try to do is to Google it out, actually. Ironically, Google does a lot more medical researches than you can think about today. Actually, it has been, that's the fact of the matter today. Although doctors do discourage people not talking through Google, but I think this is the fact of the day today. And from another dimension standpoint, I think what is important to understand is the biggest tech spending on health research is not anymore the likes of GE, Philips, and Siemens, and so on and so forth. I think it is only the Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon in different ways, actually. Each one of them is doing it differently. So this is where the money that is being spent. And for example, like what we had a partnership with Google was primarily to do the computer vision based research, which they have so much of deep pockets that they can wait for the next 10 years. So I think that's a trend that we have to live with, actually, and that's something which is inevitable. I think all the industry leads, giants are getting into the health as a space. But what this means is, what we are really going to see is a lot of digital engagement platforms. Whatever you saw in the video now was, you have somebody, a lady who's running is a diabetes, which means there is a lifestyle disease, and there is a counselor calling you back for some intervention when he sees that something is not good. I think this is what I was just talking around when of how do you differentiate between a critical care versus a chronic care, actually. But for you to really diagnose through the chronic care, I think there's so much, so a hell lot of equipment working together, something capturing, that could be a Fitbit kind of a scenario, which really monitors certain basic things and alerts the counselor through a cloud, and all kind of autonomous actions really happen, and the cloud counselor calls back for a checkup, and she goes and makes the payment and do what not. Actually, that's the trend that we are talking around. But today, what is happening is many of those things really do exist, but not in a full-fledged way. They exist in islets. But what we are going to see in the next few years, at least with post-COVID, I think the transformation has to be a lot more faster than what we thought. We may be thinking around 2025 or something like that, but this could be like 2021 or 2022 at best. Okay, so the entire user experience is something that we need to put together today, and not exactly, I think many things does exist today. I think the question is, how do I drive the user experience is the key. So what you're going to really see is, the digital twin of an hospital or any service provider. It could be an ambulance provider, or it could be a lab, or it could be a imagery, or anything that you can think about. They will be having virtual engagements happening around, and I don't think anybody, no more people are going to buy, or hospitals are not going to buy physical equipment. They are going to lease it out, or in partnership, where somebody is going to pay per use kind of models. I think cost has to come down. I think these are going to really drive down cost, and or it could even be done for free, for example. But the question is, when something becomes free, then obviously you are the data. So that means the monetization of the information will be the key requirement today, because that's the only way where you can really subsidize cost of healthcare, because somebody has to pay for it. But in this case, it could be the data that could really pay for it.
Understood, Mouli sir. So coming back to that, so when you talk about, say, so much advancement, so literally, do we see a potential of having a Silicon Valley here, right in our India, or right in our Chennai, or right in our backyard? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. See, for us, I think important for us to understand what is that? What is the problem that you're working around? Actually, I think that the key issues that we need to do is, we are always looking for the next generation of stuff. For example, COVID again is a right example. Research had fast-tracked probably a medicine in 6 months, which would have taken around minimum of 6 to 10 years. Okay, probably. Science and tech policies have been dramatically faster. Markets, people are talking about producing in really pandemic speed, about millions of doses of medicine overnight, things like that. I think these are things which we really see today coming into a reality. Key issues that we really wanted to solve at some of these things as we really progress with security, confidentiality, privacy, all these things. And the whole idea of all this digital industry is primarily to move people from illness into something more into wellness, actually. I think that's the goal, what we should be looking into, actually. I think that's what you can really get when you really get into the digital nirvana on the whole idea around med tech or health tech. I think that's what is likely to happen. Yes, definitely those Silicon Valley ideas can really come in once we have the connected health coming into a reality, where everyone start participating. Actually, this could be a lot more participative than we can think, because for you to do, the problem, unlike other industries to health, is the availability of data is going to be the crux. Actually, that's the key, because why many software companies have not been all that successful in health is, you may have the greatest idea, greatest technology, but if you don't have data to really solve, then you are very unlikely to have anything worthwhile that needs to be done in this industry. I think that's where the connected health has to be an outsider perspective of what we want to solve. Which also explains why the Gs of the world are no more the leaders. Because they've been holding on to many proprietary ideas, not exactly being thinking from outside in perspective. So the whole notion of a connected device, which will be largely cloud, edge, so on and so forth, I think coming together, working to solve some problem, you require a completely different mindset of developing some newer solutions. Which will require where you're basically, passing on costs from one to the other. For example, if you are a healthcare provider, then it's impossible for you to buy an expensive X-ray or a point of care system, which would cost you crores of rupees. Now suddenly you're going to have the most sophisticated instrument on a pay-per-use model. Okay. Which means that somebody else is going to pay for it. You are not going to pay for it. But that means that the guy will have an access to the data. So you need to share data to some extent. To some extent, that may sound a little tricky or risky. But from inside, what you can think about is who owns the data will be the crux of it. So long as there is a better consent that you can really provide, and you can really participate in this whole stuff, then this whole participatory medicine can drive down a lot of newer thinkings. Now, you can really, create a sustainable, lasting value for biotech industries, providers, and technology leaders working together to solve common problems. And today, technology is not a big issue. I think they have the same access to the tech, what Google has, what IBM has, what any of the leading industry providers have. So there is absolutely zero difference between, there is no, you have the same competitive advantage of those biggies, for example. Because everything is available on the cloud, and Amazon, or IBM cloud, or Microsoft cloud, or anything that you can potentially think of, and you just pay per use and get started. The only difference is what innovations that you can bring in, what problems that you're going to solve, and how collaboratively you can work with a provider organization. I think if we change that mindset, I think that's where you can make that difference. Creating your own Silicon Valley right here, wherever you are.
Super.
And particularly for India, which is considered to be a kind of a medical tourism hub, I think this could be transformative. We can really solve some of the world's largest problems on health working in a low-cost country and providing high-value solutions. I think that's quite possible.
Great. That's great, Mauli sir. And coming back to the data point of view, so this is where I would also like to add in one point. So just like we have organ donation, so we volunteer ourselves to donate eyes, etc., and we also donate blood regularly, and especially in this COVID times, we see it as a pride. In that case, as Mauli sir suggested, why not we bring up something like a participatory medicine, participatory healthcare, wherein we donate data for our own benefit so that things can happen at a faster pace and we can get solutions in a faster pace. And coming to solutions here, Mauli sir, I would like to ask you, so what are the problems, universal problems in healthcare that you see? Or say like, where do we need, because in this entire ecosystem, we understand that multiple breakthroughs are needed. So according to you, what are those? Where do we need solutions in?
Okay, the thing is, India itself is undergoing a sea change. I think
Uh-huh.
yesterday the Prime Minister launched something which was pretty unheard of in India, but at least we were privy to it for the last 1.5 years.
Okay.
The National Digital Health Mission. I think this is something very transformative that is going to hit.
Uh-huh.
India, which used to be pretty poor from a data perspective, I think now are going to be completely data rich on the medicine
Uh-huh.
side in the next 3 years, probably. That could be a minimum period of 3 years. But this itself is going to be a 3 to 5 year program.
Oh, okay.
um, so what we are talking about is creating some ecosystems around health. That's the first fundamental change. What we need to understand in terms of what the government really announced yesterday, in
Uh-huh.
terms of providing a national ID card for health.
Okay.
But that will be something like an Aadhaar card or something like the UPI or something like that. It could be much, much bigger than those two put together, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because these are static, actually, but health is going to be largely dynamic because in a health
True.
record, you're just going to keep on adding data to it. So it's going to be much, much bigger than probably Aadhaar or UPI. And they're going to integrate some of these things together. So, and there is already released a national health stack, which is all standards based actually. So what is
Mm-hmm.
required for us to understand is what are the large principles that you're going to talk about uh, a consent based architecture, empowering people. I think these are two things which are completely a game changer. In the sense that we believe, at least from my personal perspective, I believe that data has to be largely an open standards and it should be made available for the benefit of the community. Because there is no point in hoarding data, particularly medical health data, because it's immaterial. Okay, I do understand personal issues and other things. If I can get rid of those personal identifiers and make available data sets which can be made available for larger scientific purpose, I think that will be very, very transformative in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be one of those breakthroughs that we can potentially think about what we can bring in. And of course, what required is some kind of a consent architecture. I think that's what the National Digital Health Mission is all about. So which is basically privacy by design, or security and privacy by design. I think these are world common issues. If you go to any Western country, I think the biggest challenge is nearly 20% of your cost is spent on compliance and security,
Mm.
which is an overkill for a country like India to spend around a fifth of this cost on security and privacy. Not that it should take the least of the priority, but I think largely we need to solve it. I think the onus of that should be left with the owner of the data rather than with somebody else. I
True.
think that's where the consent-based architecture is something unheard of right now, which
Mm-hmm.
is the very core of the proposed bill, the proposed action plan, which is given by the National Digital Health Mission, actually. So it's basically about an ecosystem, not exactly about technology. I think that's again a quantum shift in thinking in terms
Okay.
of what you're trying to do. And most importantly, I think this will be like uh, yeah, API driven actually. So we are talking about a lot more of innovation coming around down the line. I think anybody who can solve some the world's biggest problems on health, they are going to find a lot more different ideas coming around. The government is trying to do a lot of industry initiatives, which include hackathons and so on and so forth. I think those are things you're going to hear more and more of it down the line. It's already there happening around. I've been part of a couple of those sessions. We had given a lot of feedback in terms of this National Digital Health Mission, how to go around telemedicine committees. We have been part of it many times. EMR standards, we are the first to be there. Nearly 3 years ago to set up the India's first telemedicine EMR standards. I think it's already mainstream. There are around 30 plus standards which are coming around, and the underlying of all things is going to be interoperability of data.
Okay.
Because if you are looking at a bank, for example, it really doesn't matter which ATM you really draw your money. You get your debits in your bank account. You could be in a state bank. You may still do it out of a Canara Bank or a global MNC bank or whatever it is. The money gets transferred and your accounts are settled. That's exactly what is going to happen. You can go take your test with a doctor or with any local physician or a lab, and some other doctor can really diagnose, and somebody else can really prescribe medicines, and somebody else can give you those medicines, and without any, it could be completely autonomous. So the rise of personal health walls are going to come. Data is going to be completely portable. We have something called SNOMED, which could be completely transformative in nature. I think we have already integrated our SNOMED into our EMR. So we are nearly there, at least around half of those standards we are already there from Sankara Nethralaya perspective. But for others, it could be something very fundamentally, again, which may be completely Greek and Latin right now. But I think that's any change, you need to adapt to it much more quickly. I think that's the reason this may take around 3 to 5 years for you to really bring in a quantum change. But most importantly, what the government is trying to do is they are not prescribing any technology, it's about standards.
Standards, true.
I think these are fundamentally dramatically different to what we have seen so far.
Understood here, Mouli sir. And coming to our stakeholders here, so what would you like to say to our innovators out there, to our entrepreneurs, business houses, as well as the other stakeholders and partners involved in this entire ecosystem? What would you like to share with them?
Actually, if you were to take health itself as a subject, see, there are multiple ways where you can really look into health innovation. This medtech innovation, HealthTech innovation. I think if I've been reading through the post-COVID action items on where the VCs are spending their time and money, actually. It's a lot of activity, actually, medical devices, telehealth, mental health, regenerative medicine. I think if you take away some of the core ideas, which is around medicine, I think a lot of stuff on technology, I think there's been a quantum funding which has been going around. I think there has been a 20% increase in VC activity over the last quarter, this quarter. And if I were to look at it from an Indian perspective, I think anything on the edge is going to be certainly a doable thing, because internet usage on mobile, India is already consuming more data on the mobile than anything else. And we are going to be talking about 1 billion users, internet users in the next 3 years. And what COVID has done is also the payment, which has been a kind of a laggard, digital payments. Post-COVID, again, it has fast-tracked the COVID post-payments. So anything on mobile, anything on tele, anything on medical devices, digital health, these are areas to really work on. The problem is, where do you really focus, actually? I think my strong suggestion is look at what the government does. You don't need to completely go haywire, understand what to do, things like that. Simply take a read through the 90-page document provided by the National Digital Health Blueprint. It's fairly straight, simple, 30 plus areas that needs to be worked upon. But the biggest thing is, even the document itself is pretty clear. Think big, start small, scale fast. I think these are words from the document itself. These are not what I'm saying. This is exactly what the government itself wants you to do. And these are all designed exactly for the innovators of the world. And what you need to do is to primarily to look into those health stack that the government, that the country itself is going to adopt. It's pretty straight and simple. You can pick up a personal health record as somebody, you can do your next 30 years of work on personal health record. Now you can create a digital vault and you can serve 1 billion people. You could be a market leader. Or you can do e-commerce. For example, Amazon today announced they're launching the e-pharmacies in India.
Oh, okay.
And Netherlands wants to buy NetMap. Okay, they are in
Oh,
talks.
okay.
See. So these are things that are being done at really pandemic speed in terms of what you want to do. So e-commerce could be a big boys game, but other things, they're all innovators games actually. So health apps, Diamond doesn't create an ecosystem, but create an ecosystem which would sustain for a particular vertical, I would say. If I were to put an analogy of a vertical, it could be something like, say for example, ophthalmology itself could be a niche area, because for the rest of your life, you can just do work only on ophthalmology. You don't need to do anything else. There's no point in spreading too many things. Okay, because you need to be a specialist in one area or the other. That's how you can really add value. So, but you have to create an ecosystem around ophthalmology and create some unique niche of services. It could be diabetology, or it could be purely pediatry or gynecology or anything that could completely make a difference. Because there is so much of work to be done in each one of these areas, and these are specialist areas itself. Or purely medical imaging itself. We want to cut across, say, medical imaging itself. Computer vision, medical imaging, AI, or mobile device kind of stuff. I think you can predict almost anything using all these common areas and technologies. So the government has already given you a platform to really think. What is required is innovators and developers to put the focus. You don't need to do even something completely dramatically different. Technologies are already known, things like mobile AI, big data kind of stuff. I think all those things are already out there as a commodity. There are a lot of open standards available. Open source stuff, tools are dime a dozen today. For example, OpenAI, you can solve almost all problems of the earth using an OpenAI. You can use your voice technology to bring up a mashup and deliver an overnight solution in 3-4 months.
Superb.
Kind of a scenario. I think we can build a complete transformation suite quick time. Only thing is required is to put in the right focus and a highly empowered team who can make that decision actually. I think that's what
Definitely.
real innovator has to do. That's what a real innovator has to do.
Definitely understood that very well, Mouli sir. So vision is what is the most important aspect, be it any business, irrespective of whatever you are into, and especially in technology, vision is very important, because if you don't know the direction in which you're going, things are going to get very difficult for you. Mouli sir, just a quick question. So with regards to prediction, technology and prediction, right? I remember you are mentioning about the patient traffic in hospitals. What would you like to say about that? As a universal problem, what would you want our innovators to work on?
See, there are many problems today to solve. One of them is certainly a patient waiting time. I think we talked about it earlier also. It's a little tricky, but we can do a Six Sigma on it actually, probably. But you may still don't have a problem. You have a problem to solve, but I don't think you have a technology to really predict. And particularly in a country like India, which has a vast amount of problems, and particularly with so much of demand for the services and the things like that.
True.
So there we can bring a lot of innovation around it, but the biggest challenge is to make it predictable. I wouldn't say no, or take this element of surprise out. Actually, that's where the technology can really help to really see how can it be more predictable rather than saying that I'll solve a patient and more predictive. And say it's not like something like you bought a car and you say point A to point B, you drive in 45 minutes. Because there are a lot of unpredictables when you're in a patient journey within a hospital. Now, because the previous patient may not be well, or there is some emergency, or when the doctor really examines the patient, there are more tests to be done, or there could be something in between about some kind of latch that could really happen around in other areas, things like that. I think there could be a lot of emergencies in between. So The question is, how do I get the surprise out actually and make it more predictable and rearrange the times and make life a lot more simpler. No, I think keep the surprise out. I think that's what can be done using technology. But largely, that's where the technology can really bring in improvements to quality, improvements to processes, and to patient outcomes. I think this is what technology can really bring in and connect the unconnected actually, or the underserved. I wouldn't say unconnected, underserved actually.
Underserved. Understood it very well, Mauli sir. Well put. And with regards to, we will wrap it up with one final question. So, what do you see Practo and others in this space, Mauli sir? Say like Mr. Nandan Nilekhani. Anything coming up from those guys?
No, I
In the
think
industry?
very aptly put around. There are a lot of big time changes that is coming around from an industry perspective itself.
Uh-huh.
For example, I just told you about Amazon getting into the e-pharmacy. I think that could be a big change. Reliance coming into the pharmacy, that could be another big change. We are talking about a telemedicine app, the Swasthya app, actually Swasthya app, which could be like the Aadhaar of telemedicine in India. Okay, so I think those are things, and these are not for profit initiatives. Where they will be wanting.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah. Sorry, Mauli sir. We lost you in the last part. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah. So we are talking about some very huge pan-India transformation.
Okay.
In terms of technology, some of these biggies are talking about for global scale. Now, particularly on telemedicine, connecting telemedicine with e-commerce and doing whatnot. I think that's what even the Prime Minister was saying yesterday, and some of the news coverages were talking about integrating telemedicine with e-commerce and all the emergency services and things like that. Swasth.app which is already released actually, which is going to be 1,000 crore kind of enterprise purely on one subject, which is an open standard on telemedicine, where you can get your APIs integrated and do whatnot, and most of it probably for free. Actually, that's what they are talking around as far as the payers and patients are concerned. But there has to be, like I told you, when something is free, then you are the product actually. So I think there is going to be an integration to commerce and so on and so forth. I think all the biggies have already been signed up along this initiative. So where we are talking about many of the hospitals, big time hospitals joining the kind of big league, and also the e-commerce providers joining, the likes of Flipkart and Amazon joining the bandwagon. Even Google is there, things like that. I think there's going to be a lot more action from a health tech standpoint in the next 2 to 3 years. I think India could be one of the largest tech-enabled healthcare in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Incidentally, the world's second largest data center was also launched in the pandemic times. And the good thing is that they are right here in Chennai.
Okay.
So we may not have a paucity of data where to store and things like that. So the data localization is just around the corner with the privacy, with the data privacy bill coming around. I think data localization is going to be the key. I think those are big changes that are likely to come, and we can expect those changes in the next couple of months.
Understood here, Mauli sir. So thanks a lot for this amazing session. It was really good, and such a vast wisdom. I mean, coming from the person who's at the apex of organization, only it can come from you, sir. So we will quickly take any questions that we have. Just a moment. Let me jump down to the live chat. So people feel free to post anything, or else considering the time that we have already gone through, I suggest you please feel free to comment in the uh, video section of YouTube. We are more than happy to clarify that. Great. So, Lisa, as of now, there is no questions, but if anything comes up, people feel free to add it to the comment section. We assure you that we will answer that. We will get it answered by Mr. Mouli sir. And you can always contact Mouli sir. I will be adding his email. So his email ID is right here, mouli@mouli.org. You can also connect with sir at his LinkedIn ID. Sir has also mentioned you the telephone number. Please feel free to connect. And always, what we suggest is while you're reaching out to people, make sure you give us a feedback about this particular session. You add in what you liked about it, you add in what you did not, or what you want to hear more about it. And please give sir a crisp idea as what you would like to connect for. That will make things easier for him as well as for you. So thanks a lot for this amazing session, Mauli sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for
Thank you
everyone
so much. I
joining
think
this session. Yeah,
hopefully we get some questions and we are in a position to answer it
sure. Definitely,
down the
definitely.
line, and it will be a great pleasure to interact with people whom it matters. I'll be delighted if we can create even one intellectual property in the next few months to years, probably in the next 3 to 6 months. I think that'll really be a good outcome of this talk, probably.
Definitely, definitely. Amazing, amazing. So, folks, this once the session is also done, you can rewind and watch it, whatever points you had missed out already. And I will be sharing the link also with you. Feel free to add your comment. Please like, share, subscribe, and share it with others also. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Mauli sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bush. Bye.
Take care. Take care, everyone.
Bye.